Back here with some more HQ. You know, we are still presented by Geico. Switch and save, get more with Geico. I'm Zach Aldridge. He's Brandon Baylor. You know, sometimes the morning throws you for a loop and you got to pivot as you can when even the screen's not working.
Yeah, of course, we were talking about NBA and what happened last night in Game 1 when it comes to Western Conference Final. We'll get to that. Outside of that, the NFL continues to make noise during their off-season. And when it comes to this, we got some breaking news for you this morning. And, of course, the postseason in the future for them, where the league's playoff system will be staying as is, at least for now. The Lions have reportedly withdrawn their proposal to seed the playoffs based off solely on their regular season record instead of the current system that rewarded division champs with an automatic home game. Of course, we'll be keeping our eye on the meetings all day today on HQ, where the owners are expected also to debate on the potential ban of the Tush Push, something we have been talking about all summer long. For more on this, I want to bring in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. And JJ, it seems like there's been maybe a U-turn when it comes to the Lions getting into this playoff seeding. What are you hearing about that news this morning?
Yeah, this was never going to pass, and that's what we had been saying since Friday, that this wasn't going to pass. We said in March this was not going to pass, and what do you know? The Lions realized that from a good push from the NFL, and it's not going to pass. So it has been withdrawn. It's too radical of a change right now. It was just never going to happen. Now, could it happen in the future? Personally, I hope so. I think it is a good proposal. I think it's one that the league certainly needs to look at. And when I say the league, not just the league office, not just NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, who is in favor of it, but NFL team owners, because we've had some really bad games down the stretch of the past several seasons, week 17, weeks 18, filled with very poor games with teams that are packing it up, getting ready for next season, games who feature teams that have already secured more or less their playoff seeding. Maybe they're going to be a 3 or a 4, or maybe they know they're going to be a wild card, a 6 or a 7. And so they put out backups in those final couple of games. And so this sort of playoff seeding proposal would have made every game matter a little bit more, would have incentivized teams to continue playing out through the end of the season. But look, it was too much too soon for NFL team owners. The Lions knew that, everyone knew that, and that's why it's not passing.
Yeah, a lot of that conversation came from what we saw last year with the Vikings 14-3 going on the road to LA as a wild card team, and everybody's like, wait, we've never seen that before. But I'm curious, from your conversations you've had with either owners or those around the league the past couple of weeks, what was the reason maybe why this didn't get passed, or what type of support they need in the future if this comes up again?
So everyone is kind of stuck on their football cliches that the division has to matter. You have to, when you win your division, you should get a home playoff game. I don't know who decided that, but that's what everyone has been repeating for decades. So that's what everyone really is stuck on. I would argue that the more games that are added to the regular season schedule, the less the divisions matter, just as on the basis of math. Right? Back when we had 16 games, there were 6 division games. Now there's 17 games. Well, 6 into 17 is less than 6 into 16. When we get to 18 games, you can do the math. It's still less. 1/3 of the games are divisional games. Now, some folks that I speak to say they should change the scheduling formula, that it's a little out of whack, that there's a lot of randomness involved with this. I don't know that the scheduling formula ultimately is going to change, but the motivation to ultimately change the playoff seeding is based solely on money, that you can get more, better games and more better games down the stretch, and so more people will pay more to watch good competitive football games, as we have seen over the years. So those are the reasons for and against. Again, still too early for this to ever pass, but I would imagine that whenever we get to 18-game schedule, which could happen in as early as 2 years, we could see the reintroduction of this proposal.
Something they could push down the road. Something else they have pushed down the road to meetings today, the Tush Push. We know about the conversation around it with the Eagles about possibly banning it this upcoming season. A.J. Brown said yesterday, hey, it's just 1 yard. But their head coach, Nick Sirianni, giving his thoughts on maybe what this play means to his team. Take a listen to this.
You know how I feel about it. I think we obviously were at the owners' meetings. We talked about how we felt about it, and I don't think anyone could question what my sentiment is on it. So we'll see what happens with it tomorrow.
Speaking of running it back again.
Well, tomorrow is today, JJ, and what are you hearing about the possibility of this play being banned here in 2025?
Yeah, so I just got a text that Jason Kelce, the retired former All-Pro, Pro Bowl center of the Philadelphia Eagles, future Pro Football Hall of Famer. He's actually in Minneapolis right now. He is with Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie. And Philadelphia is preparing an argument, as one source told me, to keep the Tush Push in the game. The Green Bay Packers proposal that came through back in March, it wound up getting tabled. The NFL owners took an informal vote. It was 16 for, 16 against. But that proposal that the Packers put out there was almost specifically designed to prohibit or ban the Philadelphia Eagles Tush Push. Well, this sort of newer proposal, they tweaked the language earlier this week, and that will cover all pushing and pulling of the ball carrier anywhere on the field. That used to be the NFL rule from the start of professional football all the way up to the mid-2000s. Then they got rid of that rule. They said it's really hard for officials to officiate it all the way down the field. And what we're talking about is, you all know what we're talking about. When the tight end catches the ball 7 yards down the field and he's running, he gets wound up getting stood up, right, by 3 or 4 defenders. And then that big offensive lineman comes in behind and starts pushing him. That would be banned, along with the Tush Push that we see with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, and what the Eagles have been so successful with for so many years, what the Buffalo Bills have been somewhat successful with over the past couple of years. I don't know how this voting is going to go. All sources that I speak to tell me it's going to be close. We'll see how close it is. You need 24 of the 32 votes, and that argument will begin at any moment now.
I'm curious, JJ, you mentioned, of course, the Packers there. They kind of started this train when it came to possibly banning this. Frankie Louvu said the other day, he called it a cheapo play. Have you ever seen this much attention to a single play in the past couple of years when it comes to these rule changes over these meetings? Have you ever seen anything like this?
The only one that I could think of, and it was one singular play, was, of course, the missed pass interference in the NFC Championship game, right, between the Saints and the Rams, and all the conversation around PI and if it should be reviewed and all of that. But that was just one singular play. I understand your question, of course, is talking about one play that is repeated over and over. Of course, not many teams run the Tush Push. Not many teams run it very well. And the ones that do, you know, I mean, Philly ran it a handful of times every game. And so ultimately, this is a lot of conversation. Look, I'll speak for myself. I think it's an ugly play, but I don't know that it's not a football play. I understand it looks like a rugby play. I understand that the doctors that are involved here, even though it has a 0% injury rate, they're saying, look, there is a risk of bad injury in the future. Do we want to wait until that happens and then ban the play, or do we want to go ahead and ban it right now? So again, that's what we're hearing out of these meetings over the past several months. And again, they are going into these meetings right now. It should be a spirited debate. We'll see what winds up happening.
JJ, I'm just going to say, Des caught it. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. You know, he caught it. He caught it. Jonathan Jones, as always, bringing us the skinny when it comes to everything in the NFL. Appreciate it, my friend. Of course, the conversation will continue, but take a look at it. QB sneaks and Tush Push. It is still a QB sneak. You just got the extra blocker pushing the QB in, but conversion rate 3rd and 4th and 1s there. The Lions, 7 attempts, 100%. Cowboys, 25. There's the Eagles at 92% there when it comes to others that have tried to do the Tush Push or push, but something that, of course, the NFL will be discussing in the coming hours.